and welcome viewers. I am Pia and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. 4 people have lost their lives and 15 others have been wounded in a shooting attack at Jerusalem's Ramot Junction. First responders say that many of the injured are grievously injured. 6 in fact have been admitted to the hospital. Meanwhile, police have confirmed that 2 attackers have been neutralized. Israeli Defense Minister Katz has warned Hamas to release hostages and lay down arms or face the destruction of Gaza and its own annihilation. His message comes after US President Donald Trump issued what he called a last warning to the group. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has announced 9 measures, including an arms embargo on Israel and a ban on ships carrying fuel for its army from using Spanish ports. Sánchez has stated that the moves are meant to punish the perpetrators of the dire situation in Gaza and support the Palestinian people. South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun is traveling to the United States to address the fallout from the mass arrests of Korean workers in Atlanta in Georgia. Seoul says that a deal has been reached to free about 300 detainees from a Hyundai LG battery plant with plans to fly them home later this week. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that he supports US tariffs on countries continuing trade with Russia, calling the idea right in an interview. His comments have come as Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had earlier attended the SCO summit alongside Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is preparing new sanctions. 16-year-old masked assailant has opened fire with a shotgun at a police station in Izmir in Turkey, killing 2 officers and wounding 6 others. Now, officials say that the teen, recently released from custody, is arrested as prosecutors probe his motive. Aaron Patterson, the mushroom murderer, has been jailed for life with a 33-year minimum term for murdering 3 relatives and trying to kill another with a toxic mushroom meal. The judge has called the 2023 poisonings as the worst category of crime, noting her elaborate cover-up and failed attempts to poison her husband. Norwegians have cast ballots on the final day of the parliamentary election, which is dominated by issues such as rising living costs and international turmoil. Polls show the ruling Labour Party and its left-wing allies narrowly holding a majority with 88 seats, down from 100 in 2021. All right, viewers, those are the headlines in our top focus. News coming in from the Russian media. The Kremlin has now reacted to Donald Trump's threats of imposing sanctions. Kremlin has now stated that no amount of sanctions will ever make Russia change its positions. Officials there have claimed that Europe and Ukraine are trying to pull the United States deeper into the conflict. Remember, this comes as Trump has stated that he's ready to move to a second phase of sanctions against Russia. And this is the first time he's come close to actually ramping up pressure over the war that is taking place in Ukraine. Trump has threatened more sanctions before, but held back while trying to push for peace talks. The US Treasury Secretary has also stated that the US and the EU could slap extra tariffs on countries buying Russian oil, such as China and India, to hit Russia's economy hard. Trump states that the sanctions so far have already cost Russia hundreds of billions of dollars, but he did not say exactly what the next steps will be. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Glenn Grant, former advisor to the Defense Minister of Ukraine. Thank you for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. The last time we'd interacted, we discussed the threats of sanctions that Trump had made against Russia. Kremlin now coming out and reacting. They've stated that no amount of sanctions will ever make Russia change its position. Is this now signal enough for the Donald Trump administration to realize that the idea of trilateral talks that he's been mooting is not being welcomed by the administration, by Putin?
That's a very good question. I mean, with Trump and his administration, you can't be at all sure what they understand because it has seemed from the beginning that Trump is supporting Russia. And nothing that he's done has changed my view on that he is. Um, but so how does one gauge what Trump is going to do before he does it? It's impossible. I mean, he's talked about sanctions, 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 2 week delay, thinking about it solidly now for months, and nothing has actually happened. So here we are with him talking about sanctions again. We have to wait and see what he actually does. But if the point from the Kremlin that this is not going to have any effect is likely not true. We have to remember that it was money that brought down the Soviet Union. They just couldn't afford to keep going. And it will be money that brings down Russia eventually. Probably not the front line, but money. So if the EU and America get their act together, then as the American Treasury said, they could actually bring down Russia. But I'm not holding my breath on this. I still wait to see because so far sanctions have been weak.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking our time speaking to us on the broadcast. Viewers, we're shifting our focus towards some developments coming in from the Middle East. Breaking updates, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived at the scene of the shooting that has taken place in northern Jerusalem. He is currently surveying the area alongside Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and MK Zviv Sukkot after two terrorists opened fire on civilians at Ramot Junction, killing 5 people and wounding at least 11. He had also earlier held a meeting with security chiefs after the shooting had taken place. Remember, earlier 2 attackers had opened fire and were then neutralized by a soldier as well as an armed civilian on the scene. The attack has so far claimed 5 lives, with several others injured, some in fact in serious condition. In fact, we're getting to know that 15 people have been injured, out of which 6 are currently in a serious condition. They have been admitted to hospitals as well, battling for their lives. Police have meanwhile deployed sappers to check the area for explosives and are continuing their investigation on the ground. This particular incident has sparked an outpouring of anger within Israel, especially amongst far-right lawmakers, some of whom are calling for tough measures against Palestinians in particular. Authorities, meanwhile, are focusing on securing the area and assessing the situation as the city is grappling with the aftermath of this particular incident that has taken place and has claimed the lives of 5 people. This has of course come in even as confirmations have come in from the medical. Meanwhile, viewers, live visuals on your screens, you can clearly see the site of the bus station where this attack has taken place. You can see security teams are on the spot. They are sweeping the area, collecting evidence, placing them, of course. We do know that there were 2 assailants, of which both have now been neutralized. 5 people have lost their lives and 15 have so far, I beg your pardon, the toll has in fact risen as far as number of injured is concerned. 17 people have been injured, out of which 6 have been grievously injured and are admitted in hospitals. You can clearly see the people on the ground are shaken, but in the meantime, we do know that the security and the administration is sweeping the area, collecting evidence as we speak. We also know that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived at the scene of this shooting as well. He is surveying the area alongside his National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir as well as MK Zviv Sukkot. Earlier, of course, there were multiple rounds that were fired. In fact, we'd gotten to know that the rifles that were being used by the gunmen have been identified as well. The rifles have been identified as a Carlo submachine gun, which is a type of improvised weapon commonly produced in workshops in the West Bank. This is information coming in from Israeli media. We do know that both gunmen have been neutralized, but their exact identities and conditions remain unknown at this point. Local media had earlier reported that the gunmen apparently boarded the bus, then opened fire on the passengers, and that 6 of the victims who have been injured are in a grievous condition as of now, still battling for their lives. With us on the broadcast is Ali Mohammed Abushbak, independent Palestinian researcher, joining us live from Cairo in Egypt. Thank you for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. Yet another shooting has taken place in Jerusalem. We do know that this is not the first time something like this has happened, but at the same time we've seen a lot of extremist voices within Israel now coming out and calling for tough measures against Palestinians after this tragedy. What do you make of what has transpired over the last couple of hours?
Thank you, Pia, for having me. The thing is, this is one of the lone wolf attack, which has become a more difficult and complex for the Israeli intelligence service to tracking the attacker and to track if individual people who planning to attack. It's I guess this attack, which that resulted by killing 6 Israeli settlers, it will be a game changer. About maybe it will spark a series of lone wolf attack in Jerusalem. Jerusalem, it's one of the active place for the Jewish and for Israeli and for as well as for Palestinian and also for traveler who came to see and this old city, which making a chaos in this area. Around 6 civilians Israeli who killed in this attack. Also, the Israeli police killed the attacker, who were 2 people, 2 Palestinian. Take a car and randomly killing and open the shoot near the Israeli gathering in a bus station in Ramon area. So as well as Pia situation is volatile in West Bank, in Jerusalem, in Gaza. There is an ambush in Jabalia that resulted in killing more than 4 Israeli soldiers in Jabalia refugee camp. Today morning, the Israeli media outlets confirmed there is a several of injured Israeli soldiers in Jabalia, as well as 4 confirmed that being killed. Also, Pia, there is a report about the sirens played in Eilat, like what happened yesterday from Houthi, the drone. So the thing is, the Israelis front it's a completely volatile, and the situation it's unstable in this area. Maybe there is a game changer with regard, as I said, this lone wolf attack maybe will spark a series of lone wolf attack. In 2016, Mohammed al-Halabi, a Palestinian young who attacked Israelis in Jerusalem, and they consider him as a spark of the Al-Quds Intifada, or Jerusalem outrage that sparked a series of this lone wolf attack. Also, last in 2021, a Palestinian gun he attacked Dizengoff Street, one of the active streets in Tel Aviv, and resulted in killing a several of Israeli. Also, that sparked a series of attacks. So, in my opinion, this attack, there is since the beginning of the war in Gaza, rarely we have seen lone wolf attack from Palestinian conducted and carried out against the Israeli settler or Israeli soldier. But maybe this is the one stage for exposing the situation in the region. And maybe, as I mentioned, it will be a comprehensive confrontation between not only Palestinian, now Yemen, Houthi Yemeni. He's also a part of the battlefield now after the killing the Prime Minister of Houthi. We have seen yesterday several of Israeli injured in the airport in Eilat, as well as maybe Hezbollah maybe will involve in this part of conflict. Especially there is a pressure on Hezbollah to lie down its weapon.
Yes.
That will create a chaos in the region. As I mentioned, situation is completely dire. Well, all the Palestinians in Gaza, they are suffering from continuously displacement and the Israeli continuous bombardment. So this makes the situation terrible and difficult. Yeah.
All right, sir, I request you to stay on with us. We're tracking more news. We're now learning that Israel's Defense Minister Katz has warned Hamas that the group must release hostages and surrender or face complete destruction of Gaza and its own annihilation. He stated that a powerful strike could target Gaza City and its stars if Hamas does not comply. The Israeli Defense Forces are preparing to expand operations to defeat the group, is what he has stated. Remember earlier, US President Donald Trump issued what he called a last and final warning to Hamas to accept terms for a hostage release and prisoner swap deal. That is not all. We are in fact tracking more news and updates. We're now learning that Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has announced 9 measures which are aimed at pressurizing Israel to end what he has called the genocide in Gaza. Sánchez has condemned Israel's actions as exterminating a defenseless population and not being done in self-defense. Listen into what he has said.
España ha decidido dar un paso más y poner en marcha de forma inmediata 9 acciones adicionales para detener el genocidio en Gaza, para perseguir a sus ejecutores y para apoyar a la población palestina.
Meanwhile, he's also placed certain key measures. In fact, 9 of them have been mooted by the Spanish Prime Minister. Listen in.
La primera es la aprobación urgente de un Real Decreto Ley que consolide jurídicamente el embargo de armas a Israel que venimos aplicando ya de facto desde octubre del año 2023 y que establezca la prohibición legal y permanente de comprar y vender armamento, munición y equipamiento militar a Israel. Junto con este embargo, la prohibición del tránsito por parte o por puertos españoles a todos los barcos que transporten combustibles destinados a las Fuerzas Armadas israelíes. La tercera, la denegación de entrada al espacio aéreo español a todas aquellas aeronaves de Estado que transporten material de defensa destinado a Israel. La prohibición de acceder a territorio español a todas aquellas personas que participen de forma directa en el genocidio, la violación de derechos humanos y los crímenes de guerra en la Franja de Gaza. La quinta es la prohibición de la importación de productos provenientes de los asentamientos ilegales en Gaza, en Cisjordania, con el objetivo de combatir estas ocupaciones. La octava será la ampliación de nuestra contribución, de la contribución española a UNRWA, la Agencia de Naciones Unidas, encargada de la asistencia al pueblo gazatí, a unos 10 millones de euros adicionales. Y la novena, el aumento de la partida de ayuda humanitaria y cooperación para Gaza para alcanzar los 150 millones de euros el próximo año, en el año 2026.
We've just heard the Spanish Prime Minister inform that Spain will boost its presence in Rafah with more troops, in fact, aiding joint projects along with the Palestinian Authority. These steps build on Spain's prior actions, such as recognizing Palestinian statehood and suspending arms deals with Israel as well. Sánchez has emphasized that while Spain alone cannot end this conflict, this is in fact a step that they are taking in order to support the Palestinian people, even as the dire situation continues, even as the people are suffering from famine as we speak. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Ali Mohammed Abushbak. What do you make of this proposal that the Spanish Prime Minister has put out, these 9 key measures? He's of course stated of providing aid to the tune of 10 million euros. in an immediate basis to the people who are suffering in Gaza. That's not all. He stated that troops from Spain will also assist the Palestinian Authority in distributing relief and aid materials.
This is one of the action that the Palestinian was waiting for in a state of condemnation and denouncement to ban sale weapon to Israel and to kill that used to kill the civilians in Gaza. So I guess one of the glimmer of hope and also the transformation from the Western country with regard to their perspective about the Israelis war in Gaza. So I guess also supporting the UNRWA by 10 million euros. That's also countering the USA president who imposed a sanction against United Nations and UNRWA and banned the support for the UNRWA in a state of helping the desperate civilians on the ground. So I guess this support for the civilians as well as the Palestinian Authority that will enhance and also reinforce the Palestinian Authority that fragile in West Bank and Israel used to deliberately and systematically weaken the Palestinian Authority in West Bank for killing the last dream for the Palestinians to establish their statehood in a state of it. So the thing is, all the Israelis coalition, the right-wing coalition, Benjamin Netanyahu, Smotrich, Benegvir, they are released a several of statement and publicly that we don't want, will not let the Palestinian state establish and will not let them have their own homeland, have their own statehood. So all of this policy on the ground, it's like making the Palestinian Authority more weak and fragile without any power on the ground. So today that the Prime Minister of Spain, one of the country, recognized the Palestinian statehood, this is giving us one glimmer of hope for desperate civilians who has nothing to survive nowadays after the Israeli continuous attack infrastructure, continuous attack the civilians, residential, not only in Gaza, in West Bank, in Jerusalem, in internal Israel. There is a several of civilian Palestinian inside Israel, around 2 million Palestinian inside Israel. They call it Arab. So all of these things giving a glimmer of hope for them to support them and to continue their struggle in front of the Israelis' machine killing.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. Meanwhile, viewers, shifting focus to some breaking developments coming in from Nepal. We're now learning that Nepal is witnessing intense protests by Gen Z demonstrators against the government's ban on unregistered social media platforms. Clashes have erupted across Kathmandu and other cities, with protesters storming restricted areas, setting fire near the parliament as well, and blocking the Nepalese army from advancing. According to reports coming in, 9 people have lost their lives and about 80 have been injured. Meanwhile, in the region of Damak, police has opened fire on demonstrators, leaving at least 5 dead and more than 80 injured. Similar incidents were reported in New Baneshwar, where injured protesters were taken to hospitals and activists established first aid camps as well. The government has deployed the army, extended curfews and called an emergency security meeting. Nepalese Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has defended the ban, stating that the nation's integrity cannot be compromised even as protesters continue to defy restrictions. That is not all. We're now learning that the Nepalese parliament has been stormed and that total mayhem is taking place over there. In fact, the government has issued a shoot at sight order. We've also got in a reaction from India at the moment. India has stated that it is monitoring the situation in Nepal very, very closely. You can clearly see those visuals on your screens. Right now, protests are taking place, but these have escalated to quite a different level. They've turned violent as well. These protests are taking place as country's government has banned 26 social media platforms including Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, Snapchat. Thousands of young people have taken to the streets denouncing both the ban and what they called rampant government protection. These are not the only visuals coming in. There were also visuals of people scaling the walls of the parliament, of the violence that has broken out. Tear gas shells were fired against the protesters as well. Several people have been killed as of now. We're now learning that at least 80 people have been injured. The situation, in fact, worsened after protesters had breached the restricted zone and entered the premises of the parliament. The police, in fact, responded with water cannons, tear gas, live ammunition shells, injuring many people. Nepal has blocked access to several social media platforms, including Facebook, after they failed to register authorities. The government claims that it's a crackdown on misuse, and it had said that users with fake IDs are spreading hatred and rumors, committing cybercrime and disturbing social harmony via some platforms in a nation where 90% of the 30 million population uses internet. The Kathmandu District Administration Office has imposed a curfew in and around New Bhaneshwar after the clashes had broken out. Demonstrators had broken through barricades, damaged property and forced their ways into restricted areas near the parliament building, where they hurled water bottles and tree branches at the police. Security forces responded with water cannons and tear gas to disperse the crowd. The curfew order was issued by the Chief District Officer of Kathmandu, Chabilal Rijal, under Section 6 of the Local Administration Act. It's been in effect since 12:30 p.m. local time up until 10 p.m. local time. It covers New Bhaneshwar Chowk westward to Everest Hotel and Bijuli Bazar Arch Bridge, eastward via Min Bhavan and Shantinagar to Tinkune Chowk, and northward through Iplex Mall to Ratna Rajya Secondary School as well. The order restricts movements, gatherings, demonstrations or encirclements within these zones. Besides tear gas and water cannon, police also opened fire at the protesters. They fired gunshots after the Gen Z-led protests had taken a violent turn, and now of course we know that the parliament has been stormed as well. Alright viewers, more news coming in. 2 police officers have died and 6 others, including another police officer, have been injured in an armed attack on a police station in Turkey's Izmir. Now, Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya has stated that a 16-year-old suspect has been arrested and the investigation has commenced. Local media has reported that the suspect opened fire upon the police with a rifle, and it's also being reported that the suspect carried out this attack just days after being released from custody, allegedly in retaliation for mistreatment at the police station. This attack also comes as there has been widespread unrest in Turkey over Erdogan government's crackdown on the opposition CHP. Meanwhile, the motive of this attack remains under investigation. Shifting focus to more updates coming in, a woman accused in the high-profile suitcase murder case is now on trial in New Zealand. Korean-born New Zealand Hya-Kyung Lee will represent herself with 2 court-appointed lawyers acting as standby counsel. She has pleaded not guilty on charges of murder. Lee is charged with murdering her 2 children. The remains of her children were in fact discovered in suitcases by a family who had purchased the contents of an abandoned storage unit at an auction in Auckland. The bodies are believed to have been stored there for several years. Lee is a New Zealand national who was born in South Korea, who lived in Auckland for several years before moving back to South Korea in 2018. In 2017, the father had died of cancer and the 2 children are suspected to have died sometime after that. The children's bodies were discovered in August 2022 and Lee was arrested in September that year from South Korea. The trial is expected to last up to 4 weeks. Shifting focus to Japan, as Shigeru Ishiba steps down from his position in the Japanese parliament, the names of many probable leaders who can take his place are now doing the rounds. Former Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi is reportedly the first lawmaker to officially declare his candidacy, while Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi is also expected to run. Now, according to reports, the front-runners remain LDP veteran Sanae Takeichi and Agriculture Minister Shinjiro Koizumi, son of former Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi. Neither has made an official announcement, but both finished second and third respectively in the September 2024 leadership contest. The political uncertainty has shaken financial markets, with the yen falling, and investors are now speculating that successors like Dov Takeshi may push for higher government spending. Now, according to reports, the LDP is set to hold an emergency leadership election on the 4th of October. With us on the broadcast is Dr. Astha Chadda from Ritsumeikan University in Japan. She's joining us live from Kyoto. Thank you so much for taking out time speaking to us on NewsX World. Quite the interesting tussle is taking place within the LDP itself. They're looking at electing their leader after Shigeru Ishiba stepped down. He did face quite a lot of setback, especially due to inflation taking place. Not just the soaring prices, there was also a corruption scandal that had rocked the party last year itself. So he's had to face the brunt of it in the elections that were held last year and this year. But the race for his position seems to be heating up. Could you tell us a little more about the probable candidates?
Yeah, thank you. We must understand that Prime Minister Ishiba was in a way forced to step down, and you already mentioned some of those reasons, and those reasons are important because they are pretty much going to be the reasons why the next candidate might replace Prime Minister Ishiba. So there was a substantial defeat of LDP, which is the current ruling party in the lower and upper house elections. Previously, within the party, there have been issues of corruption scandals as well as a critical division. So there exist several factions within the LDP. And lastly, Prime Minister Ishiba was being asked to step down even during the US tariff negotiations, but he held on to the position saying that I will step down at an appropriate moment. Now, given that backdrop, the top contenders are the number 2 and number 3 in the previous race against Ishiba, those that did not win but were strong contenders. And they both stand on opposite sides ideologically within the LDP. So they belong to 2 different factions. The first one is Sanae Takaichi. If she wins, she would be Japan's first female prime minister to win. She's been seen as a very conservative politician. She belongs to the Abe faction, Abe referring to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, the erstwhile Prime Minister of Japan. She's seen as a very prominent figure within LDP's more hawkish members. She was previously the Minister of Economic Security, a very important post that she has held. However, her ideas only resonate with the Abe faction within the LDP's base. So she has consistent, substantial amount of support, but maybe not enough to really win this time. The other candidate everyone's talking about is Shinjiro Koizumi, and you mentioned that he was the son of the former Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi. He is young and is seen as the rising face of LDP. He's also expected to bring about a fresh youthful charisma to the party, which the party has lacked for a very long time. And his supporters feel that he could bring a modern image within the party because he has a higher propensity of gaining public trust. Reason being, he was serving as the agricultural minister and he was held responsible for bringing down or lowering down the rice prices, and rice being the staple crop here in Japan. There are some others that might also give a tough competition to these contenders, one of them being Yoshimasa Hayashi. Yoshimasa Hayashi is within the LDP. He lacks majority in general, but he has held the position of Chief Cabinet Secretary and has held key administrative positions. He has had substantial experience and was the protege of the previous Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. So if he does stand for the election, he will give a relatively tough competition. And lastly, Takayuki Kobayashi. Everyone is looking at him because he is a very staunch conservative and also a former economic minister. And given the time of high inflation, Japanese economy in a constant slump, he's seen as a potential alternative to all the other frontrunners in Japan.
All right, ma'am. With that, I would like to thank you for taking out time speaking to us on the broadcast, trying to break it down for our viewers to understand the race that is taking place within the LDP. The LDP, of course, has a lot to live up to as far as the promises it makes, the fiscal policies that it brings about, that people are eyeing for to bring about a change in their everyday lives. With that, viewers, due to paucity of time, it's a wrap on this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.